So when producers think about the options of just controlling or eliminating PRRS from their farm, my recommendation is that they really should go through a structured approach, which always starts with, do I know the infection on my farm? In particular, do I know where the virus comes into the farm, or is it a stable infection that is there already over years? So first of all, they have to understand the epidemiology of that infection in their own farm. And once they have this information on hand, then they should have a look at the economic impact of the disease itself. And once they understand the economic impact of that infection on their own production system, then they can make an informed decision whether they want to go for a complete elimination of the virus, which is in many cases very costly, or whether they just opt for the continuous control of the infection, which might turn out, at least from an economic perspective, in a way better situation than the elimination process. So when producers want to take this informed decision about whether to control or eliminate PRRS virus from their farm, first and foremost, they need their own production data, which most often is available, but they also need all the economic data to really truly evaluate the economic situation on the farm. Even separated by the different units or different production systems in your farm, meaning you know the cost of PRRS in the sow herd, you know the cost of PRRS in the nursery part, and you know the cost of PRRS in your fattening part of your production system. So that's of great help. Of course, there are other tools that do a more rough estimation of economic impact. I know there are also apps available in the Google Play Store and in the iOS App Store. So just search for them and then do a really precise analysis. So when farmers want to know about the PRRS status of their own herd, there are very good recommendations in the literature and also known to many veterinarians how to determine exactly the PRRS status of a pig farm. Usually this goes along with more or less intensive diagnostic workup where you have to take a couple of samples, not only once, but usually in a sequence. So you need a couple of months of repetitive sampling, blood sampling, so that then based on PCR and ELISA results, you really know, do you have active infection where you have transmission of virus from sows to their offspring, or whether you are in a stable situation where the sows are still infected but no more virus is transmitted to the offspring. So in terms of diagnostic workup to determine the PRRS status, there is the recommendation to use at least a sample size that allows you to detect 10% prevalence with 95% confidence. In small herds, you might end up with like 20, maybe 25 samples per point in time. In larger herds, we end up with at least 30 samples if we want to look for 10% prevalence, and 60 samples if we want to look for 5% prevalence. These are, let's say, the rough estimates in terms of sample size, and it all regards to blood sampling of individual animals. Of course, in the lab, you can pool the samples 5 in 1. That's okay, that's possible, and it doesn't really affect the outcome of the PCR. So for PRRS, the producers can basically choose between 3 different tools or procedures to eliminate the virus from the farm. The well-known one is the depop-repop. That's quite easy. All animals leave the farm, and then after cleaning disinfection, you start with restocking with free animals. So when producers control not to eliminate the virus from the farm, which I can well understand, for instance, in areas with high pig density or with a high likelihood of reinfection in the next coming months or years, then they should definitely go for other control measures. And first and foremost, I always recommend to analyze the management and what can be improved in the management. That includes, for instance, the MacRobel. The veterinarians should all know it, that in the context of internal biosecurity, etc., there's a lot of space for improvement. But then finally, we always end up with the vaccination and farm-specific vaccination concept. In case of birds, it always includes the sows that should be vaccinated, and it can also make sense to include the piglets in the vaccination protocol that should be tailor-made for that farm.